You're very welcome to the Irish Political Roundup with me, Roisin the Cleric.
And me, Paul Brophy.
On this video, we are introducing our second video of our format of the Political Roundup's YouTube channel, Young Irish Politics, which is a new format we are introducing to provide a political media platform for young adults here in Ireland, ranging from the ages of 18 to the mid-30s. We will be inviting a mixture of young elected political representatives and community political activists who have an interest in their community politics and social issues here in Ireland. Here on the Political Roundup, we are giving a voice to the young people of Ireland.
Yes, indeed, Roisin. And joining us on today's program, we have Jess Hurley, who's a second year political science student based in UCC. Jess has a big interest in politics, and she also has a big interest in fishing industry as well. Also joining us today is someone that's very familiar to us here on the Irish Political Roundup. It's Paddy Manning, who has helped with our election coverage at the local, the general, and the presidential elections in the last number of years. Paddy is from Thomastown in County Kilkenny, and Paddy has a very, very keen interest in politics as well. Our third panelist this evening is Ryan McKeown, who is based in County Louth and is a rep for Independent Ireland in County Louth. Ryan has contested both a local and a general election in 2024. He contested a local election in Clane local electorate area in Kildare in 2024, and in November of 2024, Ryan moved back to his family's native county of Louth, where he contested the general election for Independent Ireland in County Louth. Ryan is also a community activist and has a big interest in the area of mental health. And finally, last but by no means least, we have Joe Hawkins, who is an community activist in the Clonmel area in Tipperary. Joe is involved in many different initiatives across South Tipperary, be it from community to mental health to a whole range of activities. Uh, you're all very, very welcome to the Irish Political Roundup.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Paul.
Paul, I'm not happy. You gave me a fright there. You started shouting at me off camera saying red card. I thought it was a red card in the Man City match there.
Oh, yes, sorry.
So, not happy.
Sorry, I didn't mean to, but we won't hold the Man City thing against you at all.
Definitely not.
You're just on mute there, Roisin.
Well, guys, as we said off there, this is a platform for you young ones. Paul and I are here facilitating this. This is really a general conversation between the four of you, and we'll pop in with some questions along the way. But we are really curious to give young people of Ireland who are interested in politics and their community activists or anyone who's involved in anything to do with their community a platform, a voice where we can deliver your message. So let's kick off, Jess. We'll go ladies first. And Jess, if you'd like to give our audience just a little bit of intro of who you are and why you got interested and involved in politics.
So as Paul mentioned, my name is Jess and I'm a second year UCC student studying government and political science. The reason that I chose that course and that I got interested in politics was a few years ago, I kind of started to realize that people my age and people who were older than me, maybe between 18 and 30, were facing a lot of really tough struggles, especially as the years go on, such things like the cost of living, transport. It's all heavily affecting everyone. And as some of the lads mentioned earlier, you're very interested in mental health for young people. That all ties in together as well. It's very difficult to be successful and happy in the 21st century as a young person, unfortunately. And as well, my mother is a parliamentary assistant, and through her work, I was inspired to get involved as well, because I saw the ways she could help people. And as well as Paul mentioned, I'm also heavily interested in the fisheries sector of Ireland because my father is a pelagic fisherman, And I've seen the struggles that he's gone through, especially over the last couple of years with quota cuts, things like that. So really, ideally, I'd just like to help with things.
And before we go on, Jess mentioned the fisheries. Jess is now on board with the Irish Political Roundup, another colleague for you, Paddy Manning. And Jess is going to be our fisheries correspondent and our Cork correspondent. So welcome aboard, Jess.
Thank you very much.
Great to have you on board. Yes.
Hey.
Joe Hawkins from Clonmel, would you like to give an intro of who you are and why you got involved in politics?
Yes, good evening, everyone that might listen to this. I'm Joe Hawkins, obviously from Clonmel in County Tipperary, All Ireland Hurling Champions 2024, might I may add. Probably one of the best counties, you know. I suppose I got involved in the local political scene a couple of years ago. As the lady that spoke before me said, it's an uphill climb for young people in society nowadays. Like I was traveling on the train from Dublin earlier on, and young people, the worries that they have, will they actually be able to own their own home? Like, is there any stability in their lives going forward? And that's something that I said to myself, look, what's the only way that this can all change is through either local politics or the national scene and through policy, and that kind of thing needs to be implemented better by the government. And young people like ourselves need to definitely campaign heavily for that. And I got involved through with my resident association in my own local area, and now chairperson of that, and then that streamed on to different local avenues where I know the youth advocate for Jigsaw in Clonmel and South Tipperary, and involved in many campaign groups, you know, and that's what it's all about, you know, just being there for anyone in the community that might need a bit of support, and just being the voice for people that might feel voiceless, really, and that's what I'm all about.
And next on my, thank you so much for that, Joe. And next on my screen is Paddy Manning. Paddy, would you like to give a wee intro? Because a lot of our viewers would know you, as I said earlier on, as part of the Irish Political Roundup team with the European, local, the general, and the presidential elections.
Yeah, I just like the blood sports of it all, to be honest. I like the tears, the chaos, the fighting, the old punch ups that happen at the election counts. Just the mischief, really. I like numbers.
Yeah.
Go with the autism, but I am partial to an election count or two, and everything that goes on with it, the build up to it for the 5 years. And that's me, really, just a political nerd.
Thank you so much, Paddy, and it's great to have you back on with us and helping us out with this. We really do appreciate that. And
Anytime.
Ryan McKeown, an Ulster man, a bit like myself, an Ulster woman, an Ulster man has joined us. Ryan, would you like to tell us a bit about yourself?
Hi, first of all, thanks for having me on the podcast and things like that. It's great to see, and it's great for yourselves giving young people a chance to speak openly about politics, which doesn't happen kind of too often in mainstream media channels. But look, a bit about myself. Obviously, as Paul mentioned prior, I've contested in two political elections, one being a local and one being a general. Yeah, I've learned a lot. It was definitely through in the deep end plenty of times. It was either kind of a sink or swim job. Unfortunately, we were unsuccessful in both elections, but I'm a good man in believing that when you fail and you get hit down, you have to get back up, come back twice as strong the next time around. So obviously that's what we're working on towards at the minute, as kind of being a representative within Louth under the Independent Ireland banner. The reason why I joined Independent Ireland was because I believe they're a party of common sense, and I believe that they're going to bring great policy. They're bringing great policy through with 40 Ds and one MEP and 27 councillors elected around council chambers within 2 years. I think that's a sign of a successful party, in my opinion. But look, down to the nits and grits of it, I sit on committees, community committee groups, volunteer a lot, heavily involved in community groups. And that's what it's all about. That's what it all comes back to, is community at the end of the day. It comes back to them decisions I made. The reason why I joined politics essentially was I come from a working class family. My mum's a healthcare worker. My father is a cleaner. So we come from where we've had weeks and end that making week's end a struggle with financial burdens, high rents, you know. So that's why I got involved in politics. And like as I said prior, I had the plans and ambitions to move to Australia to immigrate out, but then plans were cancelled when obviously I seen Independent Ireland, because I choose what's the point in running from a problem? Why not stay and be a part of change to solve the problem? So that's me pretty much. Pretty
But
boring, but look, we'll get there.
Well, we're here on the Irish Political
Anything
Roundup. I'm
but boring.
delighted you didn't go to Australia. My daughter went for 1 year and she came back, so I was delighted at that. I sort of went, oh God, what if she likes it too much and doesn't come back, but she's back home, thank God. But so uh, this is exactly what we want to talk about, the issues affecting you. And we'll go ladies first. And Jess, you are part of you're studying, as you said, government and political science. So, you know, you're very active within that and the society within college. And you also live in rural areas. As you said, your father was a fisherman, so you came from a coastal, you know the coastal communities, and you also know the rural communities. So tell us, what issues are you listening and hearing and experiencing?
So I'm from West Cork. I'm from a few different parts of West Cork. My father's from Castletownbere, my mother's from Bantry. I went to school in Bandon. I've got a bit of history everywhere. And to be honest, I think I was having this conversation with you, Roisin, the other day. It's very difficult for young people to find things to do. And, you know, things that don't involve drinking. Everyone loves going for a pint every now and again, of course. But socializing as a young person in West Cork is very difficult because obviously we can't rely on the weather in Ireland. And I think the main reason for that is the transport down in West Cork and in rural areas across Ireland. It's so difficult to get places. The bus services are unreliable. We're very lucky we have a new bus service called West Cork Connect down where I'm from, and that's been a huge help, but it's still quite difficult to, you know, if you're coming from the city to Bantry, say. I work down in Bantry. Last week I wanted to get the bus and I couldn't go, you can't go onto the Bus Éireann website and book a ticket. So the bus pulls up, it's full. I missed my 2 hours of my shift at work because of that. And I think that these are things that need to be focused on because everyone's complaining young people are sitting at home on their phones. Maybe if we had easier ways of getting to places to meet each other and do things that young people should be doing, it would be more successful.
Yeah, because we had also had the conversation. I told you about growing up in Derry. I was out 7 nights a week, and if I was out at 8:15 instead of 8 o'clock, I thought I missed everything that night. 15 minutes. I had a different outfit every night. I didn't drink. I was a designated driver, but I would have died if I hadn't been out 7 nights a week, and if I was 15 minutes late out. You know, I had a great youth, but I see how listening to young people, how young people don't have that youth that I had. And I was in the hairdressers I think it was in last November, and I was sitting beside a lady. She was 29, and she said she broke up with her boyfriend, and she hadn't met anybody because nobody goes on dating sites anymore. There's no discos here in Kilkenny. There's nowhere to go out and socialize and meet anyone. I thought, how sad's that, you know, compared to my youth, and I would say your mother's age groups. We had a great youth and a great teenage years and growing up. And I think once you have that, you can settle down into adulthood.
Absolutely. And I think, as I mentioned, I'm in UCC, so I live in Cork 5 days a week and then I go home at the weekends. So I'm lucky I've gotten to experience urban life as well. And like yourself, I'm out nearly every single day of the week, meeting my friends, you know, getting coffee, things like that. And I noticed such a difference going home during the summer and not being able to see my friends every day because you have to pay a tenner to go on a bus that might only come twice a day. So you don't even know if your plans will fall through or not. And like, you know, like I said, I'm very lucky that I've been able to experience both sides of the coin. But say for someone who didn't choose to go down the route of going to college and, you know, decided to stay and work instead, they fully deserve to have the same fun experience that people who are in college are having. But even as you mentioned in Kilkenny, there's one disco. In Bantry, in Castletownbere, there's none. There's absolutely none. There's a couple of pubs, and they're, that's the only option for us.
Yeah, and I suppose I remember 2 years ago I was down West Cork direction, on holidays, and when you're down there and drive, you don't realize how big and vast, and the distance go from one place to another place. You could be driving an hour, 2 hours just to, you know, say for example, if you wanted to go to a disco and down in West Cork, you could be driving 2 hours to get there. Um,
Exactly.
it's just, it is such a vast area, and I'd say that public transport, I'd say, is a big, big issue down there
For
for
sure.
everyone, not just young people.
Absolutely. And it's very difficult as well because, like you say, you need to drive 2 hours to get places, but it's also difficult to try and get driving tests at the moment. So it's just an endless
True.
loop of not being able to do anything.
And then the cost of insurance if you do buy a car, and the cost of second-hand cars as well.
Exactly. And that's another thing. Even the cost of a driving test alone is very expensive. Driving lessons are very expensive. It's very hard, especially for a young person who might be having to support themselves. It's very difficult to try and build that up, especially at such a young age,
Yeah.
and also trying to work.
And juggling everything as well. And so what would you, we'll go to Joe. Joe, what are you're in Clonmel. So what issues are you experiencing in Clonmel? What are you hearing other young people your age and older, younger experiencing?
Well, in Clonmel, just to revert back to, sorry, what's that lady's name that was talking there a moment ago?
Jess.
Sorry. Yeah, so if you, like Jess said that public transport can be a bit ropey now. On the hand in Clonmel, actually, there's a very good public transport facilities with the new town bus system and that. So there's a lot of positives in Clonmel for young people now. There's not as much social outlet for young people in the town, and that's probably something that could be definitely looked at. There's a lot of derelict properties that could be used. They might be suitable to be used for residential, but they might also be suitable then to use for shops or something. So they could be built into areas for young people to maybe, I don't know, there could be a game shop or something like that. Some small initiatives. Um, there's a very poor kind of what would you call it, communication between, say, any youth groups in the town and the young people. So that's another issue. Like Clonmel is really suffering at the moment through local government reforms in 2014. The town used to have a 20 million euro budget per year where they could all that money could be divvied out by the town council. That was obviously abolished by Phil Hogan, and the county was amalgamated into Tipperary, and Clonmel has kind of lost its heartbeat. Town centre it is failing in regards to that, and for young people, they can feel that, and like it's the very same because the young people are the very same across the whole country. Like so, there's nightlife is very poor. You have to remember we're talking 18 to 30 here. Like nightlife is very poor in Clonmel. One time there was four nightclubs, and now there's no nightclubs. We're losing a lot of the nightlife to Dungarvan through the bus service that goes to Dungarvan, and it's shocking, really. What is happening to, especially for the publicans as well. Like they feel it too. They're trying to run a business at the end of the day, but the issues are the same now. Like I don't have any spare time really to do anything, so I find it very difficult to. Young people are very poor then to speak up about issues like so. It's a complex situation really. Like I don't what did the rest of the guys think? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, we'll come to Ryan McKeown. Ryan, what are you listening from the people who you interact with, other young people of your age, and what are you experiencing yourself and hearing?
Well, Roisin, the biggest one kind of hitting our desk at the minute in relation to young people and people my age is student accommodation. Here in County Louth, obviously with DKIT, is a big problem for students. The stories that we would hear on an average weekly basis, ranging from unfit accommodation as well as high prices on that accommodation, is a big problem that really needs to be addressed and really needs to be tackled. For the simple reason, I'll give you one reference, for example, of a student who is studying midwifery in DKIT. So she is in a bed set, studio apartment with access to a sink, the bathroom and the kitchen is all in one. So the room, the kitchen and the sink's all in one room. And she's paying €1,000 a month for that. Right? So, and in that €1,000, now she has been to the doctor 7 times over a period of 6 months in relation to chest infections from damp and mold growing in on top of her in that room. So that is a really big complex issue that would be kind of facing a lot of young people. And it's facing people here in Dundalk. It's facing people down with Chess and USEC, the DCU, no matter where you are. Student accommodation, I think, really needs to be tackled, because we've people being, people are on taking 3-4 hour long bus journeys just to go and do a day, and then they have to fit a part-time, full-time job in the mix in that as well. Even 2 jobs. I was talking to one student the other day, and he's holding down 3 jobs as well as a full-time course in DKIT College. Now, that's where it all is a roller coaster effect in relation to students. It comes under one umbrella effect: your mental health, the pressure, financial burden, and financial pressure of, obviously, you have the Susie grant, which the threshold for Susie grants needs to be looked at. It needs to be reviewed. We can't, it's not suitable at the minute the way it is. The threshold needs to be increased on the Susie grant to allow that working class to middle class ground of society students access to 3rd level college. As I've said myself, I'm not, you know, I went to Dunboyne College for a period of time and stuff like that. But that is complex. Here in Loudon and Dundalk is the biggest issue. You can guarantee I'm hearing about that every day of the week. We have different cases ranging from that in the likes of that, as Jess was saying as well. Public transport, another big issue down here in Loud as well, affecting young people. And it's plain and simple. To the serve accommodation. This we're the future.
Mm-hmm.
We are the future, and if we don't support the future, like DKIT's dropout rate, as I was talking to the president the other day in a meeting, is getting very alarming, and is raising a few eyebrows with dropout rates. And as each dropout happens, as each person drops out, they're asked one question: what's your reason for dropping out? And a high percentage of that, now the exact figure, I will get that figure because we're working on something at the minute. But that exact figure, when you look at people dropping out, the main reason for people dropping out is plain and simple financial pressure and stress. They're burnt out. We're born in our generation out, and they haven't even went into the workforce yet.
Yeah.
And that's a problem to be concerned about.
So
And
you
it
were
all
saying there's a lot of mental health issues relating to the pressures of life and the cost of living and the living situations as well.
100%. Big issue.
Sorry, Paul.
sorry, Joe Hawkins unfortunately had to drop out there. But
Perfect.
we'll have Joe on another
Paulie Manning,
No
you're
rush.
a mental health advocate as well. And one of the issues that I missed last week, unfortunately, but you also brought up about the drug issues that are happening and the mental health issues that no one's talking about. And we should be talking about that, especially with the young ones too.
Yeah, I do think people are talking about mental health more, all right, but
Yeah.
I definitely I haven't seen the cocaine epidemic talked about too much, but
So there is
um,
one.
I
yeah.
don't know if
And
the lads would agree
our,
with me, but
in our first program,
preferably,
you spoke about that.
yeah, it's just chronic. The epidemic is the word. It's everywhere. It's pervaded every sector of society, every workforce, every sports team, you name it. There's cocaine at a party, you're in it, or if you're at it. And then, in turn, affecting users' mental health, and they don't even realize it when they're starting off that they might be the poor unfortunates that can't get off it, and they get trapped in that cycle.
So,
Yeah, it's sad, really, to see. Yeah, mental health. Definitely seen a sea change in regards to mental health. Conversations in real life, not in podcasts or in debates or meetings, but just chats that I'd have with colleagues, friends, chats that wouldn't have happened 15, 20 years ago.
'Cause-
There's a culture shift, I reckon.
And it's so sad when I'm sitting and I'm listening to conversations where young people are saying, I have anxiety. And I feel, oh my gosh, at that age, I never knew what anxiety was. I never knew what stress was,
Mm.
but it's the whole society, what's happening in society, how it has changed. And when I was younger, yeah, there was drugs, but not to the epidemic that it is now. And like how you can just go and buy it, and it's freely available. And then the mental health issues with that. And, Jess, you coming into that, what any other issues that is coming up for you in Cork, in college, or with what you're hearing from other young people?
Yeah, well, I think the lads have encapsulated it fairly well. Like Ryan was saying, we have very same issue with student accommodation. I think I saw a report on RTE there a couple of days ago saying that this year delivered the lowest number of student beds in 20 years in the country, which is absolutely ridiculous. If anything, you should be increasing that every year, of course. But yeah, and as Poddy was mentioning, this thing about the cocaine epidemic, nobody seems to be talking about it, but it has become just as casual as having a pint. Like, genuinely, I'm very lucky I haven't been heavily exposed to it. But you go into certain nightclubs and certain pubs in Cork, you go into a bathroom, you're guaranteed to find it. It's frightening, to be honest. But yeah, as I mentioned as well before, transport in rural areas, that also applies to urban areas as well. And for those who unfortunately can't get student accommodation, I have a couple of friends who live just outside Cork City, and a lot of them take the bus route 220, which goes from Ovens out to Carrigaline. And they say that it is one of the most, even though it's the busiest bus route in the city, it's one of the most unreliable. And they end up an hour late for lectures that they're working hard to try and pay to attend. They can't get home to go to work to try and pay for their lectures to attend. It all just rolls into one big massive mess. Everything that everyone's mentioned so far, it's all contributing to each other. And I think it ultimately comes down to the cost of living as well. It's very expensive to try and go out and do anything nowadays. If a friend asks to go meet up for coffee, that's €2 to get the bus, say. At least a fiver, between £3.50 and a fiver for a cup of coffee. You're walking around, you can't just and then it's another €2 to get the bus back, or if you're walking or anything. It's all just so expensive. Going out for dinner now costs at least €30. Going out for a drink, you're spending so much money. It's very difficult to go and enjoy yourself without worrying about that, and then trying to worry about paying for your rent, paying for your fees, and everything like that. I think it was last year, the government promised to reduce student fees by €1,000, and they did do it for 1 year, as far as I'm aware. And then there was no information until, I think, was it July of 2025, with the school year starting not even barely a month later. There was no word on if that reduction was going to be kept. So people didn't know, are they going to have to pay another €1,000 again? And I'm pretty sure we ended up having to pay that. And there was no clarification until very shortly before the college year started. It's very difficult for us to have a plan in our heads to know where we're going to be at financially.
Yeah,
And Ryan, have you
Sorry,
anything to
Rosie.
add to that?
of course, no, 100%. Look, what Paddy said there as well, and come back to kind of what Paddy's marks in relation to cocaine epidemic, 100% is a big problem. drugs is a serious problem, and I think that uh, but I also think it's a bad preparation to put out sometimes as well of people in relation that it's all young people that are involved in this. It's not, you know, and that is a very important thing to, the stereotyping in society of young people as being involved in drugs, or, you walking down the street, like it's there in plain view. You walk down the street of Dundalk, my hometown, you're seeing it on the daily. You're seeing a young fella age 7, 6. Oh, not 7, 6. Maybe that's a bit too young. We'd be definitely in serious problems if they were doing it that age. But you see 14, 15-year-old young boy, and he's walking around in Canadian Goose jacket, a nice gold watch on the wrist. Kitted out with the kit and all that. You know, you're inclined to obviously raise concerns, right? What's this fella involved in, you know what I mean? Because where's a 15-year-old getting that sort of money? Or where is his parents getting that sort of money from? But going back on the remark as well, another big thing, kind of branching off from what Jess had said in relation to cost of living, is another big issue. We have apprentices in this country that are doing tremendous work, who are out working the same as a college student. Let it be mechanics, let it be engineering, or whatever they're doing, working the same as students, and they're not getting a fair pay.
No.
They're putting in the hours, they're putting in the overtime. I've plenty of mates who's working in the industry of mechanics, and they're putting in the hours. They start their shift on a Monday morning at 8 o'clock, and they'll be on the go till about 11 o'clock that night, trying to work overtime to play catch up, to learn new things, to get the trick of the trade that to kind of speed up. But one of them came to me the other day and said he doesn't know if he's going to be able to afford to stay at it, because financially he's driving, coming back to the car insurance and the cost of petrol and diesel, and carbon tax on the petrol and diesel. It's constantly, it feels like, for young people, you get it in one hand and it's taken out straight away in the other hand. And with a relation to apprenticeships, €200 a week, and they're doing the same work as a fully qualified mechanic, if not that bit more extra.
Yeah.
Because they know the person that's giving them that kind of apprenticeship knows that they really want it. So they're going to take, I feel, as my mate described, to take advantage of that and make you give you kind of, we'll say, all the kind of the more or less entertaining jobs as such. And you're handed 200 come the end of the week, after putting in maybe 16-hour shifts a day. And that's concerning, because we need to sit down and we need to look at it and say, right, we need them. We need engineers. We need electricians. During the time of the last Storm Owen, we had to go as a country and take in electricians from France and Germany to help with our power outages. So if we continue treating our apprenticeships the way we're treating them, that's going to be a constantly reoccurring event, because we're not looking after. I believe you have to scratch the back. I don't forgot the saying completely. Botch that saying there for a second. You scratch the back that helps you, kind of thing. I don't know if I said that saying. Definitely botch that saying anyways. I'm not getting no one-liners this week anyway. But we have to look after them. We have to support them. Same with students in colleges. Our midwives, nurses, doctors. They're the future. And that's something that in my personal opinion, as a young person, take the politics out of it. As a young person, that's something the government needs to sewn on and realise that we are the future. And they need to give us every tool and put every stepping stone in place to make every young person successful and succeed. And that's not happening
Yeah.
at this present time.
That's a fair point you're making, Ryan, because I remember looking back there a few years back, and I was looking at kind of different trades and kind of like what would be kind of like the starting rate for first year, second year apprentice. A lot of the time they're making less than minimum wage, and that's very hard for a young person. But an older person that might want to go back and train, retrain, it mightn't always be possible. And Buddy, you can probably relate to a lot of what Ryan is saying, because you went back and trained did your 4 years and trained as a plumber.
Yeah, I kind of fell into it by accident. Yeah, no, he's right. First years are used as labourers from what I can see. Now they learn while they're working, but like they're doing the work of a labourer in first year and getting paid less than the minimum wage. If you do minimum wage, I'm all for first year's been paid minimum wage. I was very fortunate. I was actually given the second year rate in first year, and it balanced out over the 3 years. So I wasn't scrambling financially. And then in third year, I would have stayed on the second year rate. So it was just balanced out over the 3 years. But that was due to the fact that I had a very ethical employer. Yeah, it's financially it's prohibitive for a older person to go back, I feel, when they have crazy rents, you have car loan repayments to try and make. And then you hear that what the first year rate, the weekly take home pay is 300 quid. For plumbing, I know the mechanics are paid a lot lower than the construction apprentices. My understanding of that is that the first year rates and all the rates are set by unions. I could be wrong there, but plumbing rate is set by the NECT. Is that the union for plumbing? And the employers tend to stick to that.
Yeah.
And guys, my next question is, I'm curious about young people. I grew up in an era where and I spoke to Jess about this on the phone. I grew up with an abundance of role models within my community, within the neighborhood. And then when I was on radio, I noticed that when I was on local radio doing my radio shows, I noticed that young people didn't have role models the way I had growing up. They had celebrity influencers who are paid to influence and have endorsements to influence different narratives. Putting it out there to you, do you believe that you have good role models within your communities? And do you believe the mainstream media and the big corporates are managing and controlling role models for you? I'm curious to find that one out. Jess, we'll go to you first.
Perfect. Well, I think yes and no, because say in the terms of political role models, I know for my constituency, we've got the leader of Independent Ireland, a very hardworking man, Michael Collins, who very inspirational, absolutely, and the work that he does is great. But there's nobody our age who is there and is advocating for us in the way that they should be. They're not encouraged to as much. And then in the sense of, say, maybe for you, Roisin, growing up, you had, singers or actors who they weren't just this rinse and repeat kind of industry plant that we see nowadays. Like most of the time, say for girls that are 12, 13, 14, the only version of that they're getting are these people on TikTok who are making videos promoting changing your entire appearance and, oh, you have to eat this way to look this way and you have to do this to become this perfect person. There's no one advocating for us to be our authentic selves and encouraging us to do the things that we want to do. And I think we've actually kind of reverted as a society in that way, because I think there's a lot of people who spent years advocating to try and, allow people to be happy with themselves and strive towards their goals, but that doesn't seem to be happening anymore.
Has everything been goal? No, I'm a coach, but is everything just goal orientated? It's I have this goal, that goal, on to my next goal, where people have really, they've forgotten themselves. They don't know who they are anymore. They've just this goal orientation, and then they have this this sense of this image. You have to look perfect. You have to be perfect. You have to have this perfect Instagram life, which is all fake anyway.
Absolutely. I think, people are kind of putting too much emphasis on the bigger things in life, which of course they're very important. Get your degree, get your apprenticeship, get your qualification, start a proper life for yourself. But you also have to realize that it's the small thing. It's very cliche to say, but it's the small things in life, like waking up and just being happy in yourself as a person, is very important. And Roisin, you mentioned you're a coach, and I feel like in terms of maybe sports, for young people who are interested in sports, there's definitely role models there for them. I think that, in Ireland, we're very lucky. We've got the rugby team. They're a bunch of young lads who are working really hard representing our country. You've got all of that. But for people who maybe aren't so interested in GAA and rugby, it's very difficult for us because I never really was growing up. So it's very difficult to find people who see you and see, you're a different person, but that doesn't make you any less valuable.
Yeah, I think that's really important. And too, for a woman as well, and a young girl. And it's actually just when I remember when I was doing my NLP, we did a session on what was your first thought during the day. First thought when you woke up. Well, I was a mother parenting alone, and I said I had about 7 different strategies because I was going to Maynooth that day to the Glen Royal to do it, and I was just, and the guy who was my colleague for that morning says, "Jesus, Roshan, I'm exhausted before we get out of bed in the morning because I had everything. If this didn't work out, I had planned everything down to D." And he says, "Jesus, Roshan, stop there." And that is true and that's where it came up where you mentioned first thought during the day. Young ones are waking up stressed before they even get out of bed in the morning. They're going to bed stressed. And it's the stress and the anxiety and the role models, as you said that too. I grew up with role models with women within the neighborhood. If I had a problem, I would go to one of my grandmother's friends or my mother's friends or your woman down in the next community. We all had good role models within our community. They weren't singers or celebrities. They were role models within our communities. They might be just women who were, for an example, when I had my Naomi, she wouldn't eat for me. She wouldn't stop crying. So the woman up the road had, I think, 10 children. She just a couple of doors up. She came down. She put the bottle in Naomi's mouth, and Naomi took the bottle, and she said, "You know what her problem is? She knows you're a new mum." These are role models that we need to bring back, common sense role models about life and bring that connection. Role models that will bring that connection to you, who you are within the community that you live in. And that's what, I'm hoping that this program will do, this platform will do, is help young people get that connection of who you are and how powerful you are in the communities that you live in, and how you can be role models for the younger people, your age groups, and maybe even slightly older and younger, but you're role models for them to look up for because you are there in the core of your communities.
And as well to Roisin, I'm sure that the ladies that you grew up with,
Strong women.
they're strong women, absolutely. But I'd say they were incredibly resourceful people. I suppose when you said like cost of living, Christ, maybe like we'll find a way. No problem was ever too big or too small, and so that sense of community as well, I'd say must have been great
People
as well.
helped people within the community in there. We grew up in the Troubles. We helped people within the community. We even, if our Protestant neighbours were in trouble, we were the first one on the doors, sugar, food, everything, or childminding. Like the way the North, we used to say that the Free State media, they actually didn't, they sensationalized what the troubles were in the North because we helped one another. But it was that core community spirit of knowing someone was in trouble without them having to ask, and you just rallied round. And people don't like to ask anymore. There's so much with the younger people, that loneliness. I think is a lot of loneliness out there where people are not connecting with people with their peers or their colleagues or who they work with. They're not connecting. That might be affecting the low self-esteem, low sense of self-confidence, and the confidence then going out and socializing. But then role models is so important. Ryan, from your age group, what role models for a young man your age do you have?
Well, to be fair with you, and I'm not looking brownie points here. If you're asked professionally, of course, Michael Collins is definitely a role model. He's on the phone every day of the week, most times, and he's great for advice. Not just they take even the politics out of it. Even as a friend, he's a good role model as a friend. He's a good man to have on the phone. But like I said, look, in relation to TikTok, I'm a 22-year-old. I'm hardly on TikTok. Don't bother me with TikTok. Because to be fair with you, nothing against anybody who does watch TikTok or who enjoys watching TikTok or is a creator on TikTok. Personally, me, I am old fashioned, I'm old schooled. There's nothing better than a face to face conversation. And I think as a society that's social media is good on elements. Now I love my Facebook, don't get me wrong. I definitely love my Facebook. But
What
definitely
role
on it.
models do you have though? In not
Role model.
with
Well,
the
for we say
personal
for
life.
role models example, community workers on the ground. A good man goes by the name Paul Callan. He created a group down here called Loud Disability Cycling Club. It's basically where we have push bikes, and it's kind of designed up to fit a wheelchair onto it. For maybe a child in a wheelchair or an adult in a wheelchair, and we also take kids with autism and stuff and out every week cycling on the bikes, and the absolute love it, the smiles on their face. And to me, he's a role model.
Yeah.
To me, he'd be my community role model, because to come up with such initiative, to see a problem, as Paul was saying there, about years ago, if they seen a problem, they came up with a solution. I'm a true believer in that. We can all raise the issues, we can all raise the problems, but the real thing is, it's about bringing solutions to it. And when you see somebody like that man come up with a solution for kids with disabilities, that's a role model.
Yeah.
Not standing dancing to the WAP on TikTok, or a bit of Nathan Carter on TikTok. To me, that's not a role model. That's your entertainment purposes. And if you enjoy dancing on the phone, you work away. I'm not going to judge you.
Yeah, and that's why you become an activist. You see a problem, you come up with a solution, and then it happens. Like for example, Roisin, we were very active on the fishing industry on this program for God nearly a year, nearly 2 years. And when you look at the program for government, um, all the 12
12
points that were raised in it, you may as well have been looking at our programs. Now there were other people that had an input as well, but from you know that does give things like that gives you satisfaction. That you saw something, you ran with it. We Roisin and I, we both worked hard to promote the fishing industry, and it's great to have Jess on board there in the next
At least she knows the
next
fishing
little while.
industry.
Yeah,
At least she
exactly,
knows.
exactly. But when you can identify a problem and you can come up with a solution, that's what being an activist is all about. And
Polly, you're very much involved in your community growing up, and who was what role model do you see a difference between role models when you were growing up compared to what the younger generation have?
I don't know. My role models would have been people I knew, like my uncle Jerry, Davy, Nolly. Uh, I wouldn't have. And Roy Keane, actually, I did look up to Roy
Yeah,
Keane.
I like Roy King.
Yeah, even though I'm
uh,
not really fan. But yeah, I don't know who the role models are now. I'm out of the loop. I don't
Mm.
I don't see what the same feeds that 20-year-olds and 25-year-olds see. I'm 37 now, so
Mm.
my TikTok videos are all plumbing. It's it's very limited in what I watch and see, so I can't answer that.
But even growing up, down there in Thomastown, it's a rural community, so everybody helped one another and supported one another.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And evident at the time of the bad floods in 2015, all the businesses in Market Street were washed out. The town rallied around. I was actually stranded in Johnswell. I couldn't get back to Thomastown at the time, but people went out in their waders over, I think it was the Christmas break, and they were trying to rescue equipment and businesses and just tried to minimize the damage, but sure, it was washed away. But everyone rallied around. There's been a few sad, tragic losses to the river in Thomastown as well over the years. And search parties, people would have given up their time over the years to assist and try to bring closure to families. Maybe it's a rural thing. I feel like they rally around in the bad times. There was a strong sense of community.
Yeah.
There.
But even in cities, I noticed that, everybody knew their neighbors, everybody knew the people. Now I'm noticing, even here in Kilkenny, I hardly know my neighbors.
Same.
And like even in cities like in Derry and Cork, like everybody knew who they were in the neighborhoods, and and who. Jess, you're in Cork. I know you're a student and you're busy and everything else, but would you know your neighbors even in the houses around your student accommodation?
I think that I'm lucky because in the world or the area that I live in, it's all students. You get to know people. I'm very central to where UCC is. And that whole kind of sprawling area is mostly students. I know most of the people that would live down the road from me. Maybe not every single person, but definitely a few. Some of my best friends live a 5-minute walk down in another student accommodation, But I think that if I was living in Cork City as a non-student, I'd probably feel a bit disconnected because it's quite difficult to, get to know people if you're not pushed directly into a situation where you're forced to get to know them.
Yeah. And especially for people who might be moving to Cork from a rural area and go, okay, I'm working in Cork. And it's difficult then when you finish college and you're moving and you've got a job and you're moving to a new area, that it's very hard to go out there and make new friends.
Absolutely, it is. And forced proximity is one thing, obviously in UCC, in my course, through different societies, whatever. You get to know people, but if you didn't have that bit of guidance, it's very difficult to say, right, I'm going to go into Cork City, I'm going to go to this place, and I'm going to say hi to everyone in there. It's not realistic.
How do young people meet romantically? How do they meet their romantic partners nowadays? Because if there is no nightclubs, there's no social areas to meet, how do people meet apart from online?
Well, from my personal experience, I met my boyfriend at a concert in Cork City, which I was lucky that way. I think from my own experience and from a few other people, you get to know people through mutual friends.
Yeah.
But that's not always the case. There's definitely a lot of people that would use dating apps and dating websites and whatever, but I think that the culture around that is a little bit toxic. It's not genuine. I think it's very difficult to meet someone and have a genuine connection with them without our generation has such a strange kind of attitude towards it. You can't just go up to someone and say hi, if you have an interest in them. There's so many kind of unspoken rules, and it's quite stressful. Nothing's easy anymore.
Wow.
It's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really different. And that is very hard when you just can't go, hi, how are you? My name is so-and-so. You probably think, oh my God, they're weird. When I was young, if they didn't say, can I have a date with you? Or can I meet you so-and-so? You go, okay, well, why didn't you come up and ask me? So it's bringing that I think, bring back the values back, that the people values, instead of everything being on with technology, bringing back those community values and as Ryan said, that face to face, where that interaction is, for people to meet people genuinely and not be disconnected, and reconnecting with them, as you said, Jess, connection with yourself and connection with the community that you live in.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's and even going back to the role model thing and what Brian, you were saying about you're a very traditional person, you like meeting people in person. I think that ideally that's what everyone would like, but there's just so much emphasis placed on what's going on online and what is this person saying and what is this person who's 500 miles away from you saying. There's no emphasis put on to people that are just around you. You know, the people that you wake up every morning, you see them every day.
And with everybody, and two, I think social media isn't relatable. I see social media as a tool to use. And whereas a lot of people are using it as their life and how they make friends and interacting online and texting. Whereas I'm a people person. I'm a talker, you know. And it's you know, my children used to say to me, "Well, if I went downtown, what new friend did you make today? Who did you talk to?" Because I'm from Derry. You wouldn't walk past someone without saying yes. We up there, you don't say hello. You go yes. Yes is like hello. You go yes. And if you didn't say yes or how you doing, when you walk past someone, they would look at you and say, "What's wrong with you?" You know, that's the way I grew up, and so it's really, I think that's something that, you know, it's going to be up to you young people to actually change this toxic environment back to being community values, people-centered values. And unfortunately, you know, no one can change it, but the young people have to be the voice and change it from within. And that's where your voices must be heard, and bring these issues to the forefront, and to the media in any way you can. The media will always sell whoever pays. Hegman in the media, who pays the bills, has the headlines. So it's actually building these profiles and doing the work within your communities, and which you are doing already. And that's powerful. You know, and do you find that young people have become more quieter and even voicing their opinions? That's something I'm interested to hear in the next couple of minutes. Do you find that people, whereas when I was young, Paulie said he was very opinionated. I'm very opinionated too, you know, and but do you find that people are censoring down and their opinions and not using their opinions and just trying to be liked? I'll put it to anyone.
Well, yeah,
I
I'll take that one. We'll give Jess a bit of a break there. She's talking to yeah. So it is. But no, 100%. Yeah, no, look, society as overall, you know, is just gone to the stage now. You say hello to somebody on the street, they're grunting at you. You know, well, how dare you say hello to me, kind of thing, you know? And I personally think, from my own perspective of what I go of, look, there is still a lot of good people out there.
Yes.
You know, and there's a lot of people out there that is thinking the same as everybody else. But the thing is, people are, as you said, are too afraid to talk up and get a conversation going. You know, but as I'm a strong believer in you, I'm a devil for saying hello to people. Probably don't even know who they are. I'll say or throw them an wave if they're going down the road. But if they don't wave back, I'm not going to go and take it to heart.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say, right, fair enough. Well, just want to say hello today, you know. But I think as a society, that's became the new norm. Do I think it will ever change? I'd like to think so, but I can't see it.
Can you be the change that is needed in the world?
Necessarily, but you can sit right, and you can do things to better society, and you know, put a lot more positivity into society, which we need. You know, the likes of that, into your mental health services, into your addiction services. You know, to kind of get that moral back of your neighbor. But I think, like for example, here, what has happened here in Louth, if we look at Dundalk for a prime example, right? We used to have a Maytime festival every May from decades, from the 60s. This event was held. And it was bands on stage on 17th of May religiously every year. You can guarantee that town was packed with people. And they're all out, and from every street was out at that square. They were dancing, they were singing, there was market stalls, and then all of a sudden stopped. So people have actually gotten to the stage, and I think in the world of politics, that's what needs to be changed. You know, that's what needs to be changed. That the offence within the communities being stopped. Like, I don't know, recently there, our St. Patrick's Day parade was on the verge of being cancelled here in Dundalk. You know, that's one day of the year that people come together. You know, as a country, we put everything aside, put differences aside, put politics aside, put everything aside, and come together as a town and as a community. But when we're playing around in world politics with them, such offence like that, that's where we're playing on dangerous games. And this is society's reaction to them consequences, in my own opinion.
And we like to hear people's own opinions.
Definitely.
And Jess, what do you think? Do you think it's been watered down? Young people are watering down and self-censoring on their opinions or what they're thinking.
I definitely think so. I think, well, the people that I'm surrounded by, obviously, I'm in a politics course in college. Everyone that I'm surrounded by is very outspoken on what they believe. Everyone's very passionate about it, which is great to see. But that's 40 people, you know? And I think people are so scared of, as I was going back to saying, like, being connected with themselves. People are so scared to just be themselves and enjoy themselves in matters of expressing their opinions, expressing themselves. I'll give you an example. Last week, I was part of organizing a college ball through the society that I'm a part of. And it was a great night, beautiful event. We booked a band to play for 2 hours. For the first hour, nobody was dancing.
Really?
There was 200 people there. Nobody got up and danced. No one wanted to be the first person to go onto the floor and start dancing because everybody was too self-conscious and didn't want to get up and just go enjoy it. And it was funny, I was going to my friends and I was saying, why? Like, because we were, but I was saying, why is nobody getting up and just enjoying themselves? And they said, Jess, it's because they're waiting for the drink to kick in. Nobody could get the confidence to just, not even the confidence, just the enjoyment to go and do that until they had had a few drinks.
God.
Which I think it made me quite sad because we'd obviously put a lot of effort into booking that band and organizing the whole night. And then after a couple of hours, the place was rocking and it was great. But that's one thing that I noticed, and I think it really ties back into the question that you're asking. Why have we gone so quiet?
That is a really good question to actually put out there. Why have young people gone so quiet and self-censored and lack of even self-confidence to get up and dance? When I was younger, I was always the first out on the dance floor and with no drink in me, you know, and that's something, but we'd love to bring back. We're just gone past the hour, but I think this is a great conversation starter in getting up. You're both more than welcome on every week or whenever you can. You're more than welcome. We'd love to have you on, and it's lovely to speak to young people who have opinions. It's lovely to hear your opinions. And one thing, even growing up, is I actually enjoy speaking to people who have different opinions than me. Because it gets us to think and go, well, is that really my opinion? Opinions can be changed. Beliefs can be changed, but core values is something that's very close to our heart. And I think it's getting back to the core community values of life and our culture and that. And, and beliefs can change over times and opinions do. And sometimes when we listen to other people and maybe young people listening to you now, the people of your age group listening to you now, you don't know what hope, what inspiration, what motivation that you are giving to other young people to actually show up and speak up and stand up. For as you said, you're the next generation. You're the generation that's going to be looking after me, my age group. I want you to have opinions.
And if you think about it, Roshan, if you take it, look throughout history, all movements, all changes that happened, young people played a massive role in that. And your colleague Tommy Hartigan made a great point there last week. If you go back to the foundations of the state, Michael Collins, not the Michael Collins that you referenced earlier on, but Michael Collins, who was first minister for finance at like 29. A lot of the people involved in the 1916 Rising, they were all very young. So young people have had
I'm
a
a great fan of
role
Michael
to play in our
Collins.
long fella.
Growing up in Derry, Michael Collins was our hero.
Oh, he's a big fella.
And a lot of people, mistaken think, oh, De Valera. I didn't know growing up. I didn't even know who Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael was. But all my grandmothers said, you're not allowed to mention De Valera. Dev, she called him. And I went, who's Dev? Don't mention his name. Who is he? I never knew until I came down south who De Valera was. So it's about those funny things. And I just really wish we can go back and giving the young people of Ireland a voice, a platform.
Most definitely.
And you are doing it because you are young and you're getting out there. You're on the ground, you're grassroots, and you're doing the work. You are the change that you want to be and see in your communities.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Well,
Rishi.
Well, Jess Hurley from Cork, political student in government and political science, and a fisherman's daughter, and also a mother who is also inspirational because she's a political activist as well. And to Ryan McKeown from Dundalk, from Cork to Dundalk, thank you so much. For you even putting yourself forward and being a role model. The two of you are role models. You are the role models of your generation. So thank you for taking the time of your busy day, Jess, from studying and assignments and exams, and to Ryan from Dundalk, giving up this evening for us. We really appreciate that.
Thank
Very
you so
welcome.
much.
Thank you for having me on.
Thank
Appreciate
you for
it.
having us on. Absolutely.
It is our absolute pleasure.